Welcome to Audio Library. This is the only YouTube channel that provides you book-like podcasts. Today, we're embarking on a really deep dive into a true titan of personal development. I mean, a book that has genuinely shaped countless lives and continues to provoke thought and action, even decades after it first came out. Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. Our mission today really isn't just to summarize what this foundational text says. We want to unpack its most vital insights. And more than that, we're here to reveal in clear, actionable terms, how its principles can be applied directly to your life, whether you're seeking, financial prosperity, maybe a career breakthrough, or the achievement of any other deeply held definite purpose. This whole philosophy, you'll find it profoundly starts in the mind.
It really does. And what's truly fascinating, I think, is how timeless and enduring the core philosophy of Think and Grow Rich remains, especially when you consider the original material, first published way back in 1937, is now actually in the public domain. The book itself isn't just a guide. It's almost like a treasure map, isn't it? It suggests quite explicitly that there's a kind of secret formula woven throughout its pages, a fundamental truth about success that's never directly named, but it's there for you, the reader, to discover through active engagement. So this deep dive will serve as your comprehensive guide in uncovering that secret. Will illuminate the path, help you grasp its essence, not by just telling you what it is, but by showing you how to find it and, integrate it into your own journey.
Okay, let's unpack this bold premise right from the very beginning, because it's the absolute bedrock of Napoleon Hill's entire philosophy. And it might challenge how you typically view your thoughts, actually. He opens with this audacious statement: truly, thoughts are things, and powerful things at that. Now, that's not just a metaphor, right? Or some poetic turn of phrase. Hill is suggesting that your mental states are actual, tangible forces, energies, maybe, that precede and actively shape any material achievement you manifest. He even calls this philosophy the shortest dependable philosophy of individual achievement ever presented, for the benefit of the man or woman who is searching for a definite goal in life. That's quite a claim, to call it the shortest and most dependable path.
It is a monumental claim, absolutely. And it ties directly into what Hill refers to as the unnamed secret. It's often whispered about as the Carnegie formula. Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate, one of the wealthiest men ever, actually challenged Napoleon Hill to this staggering 20-year project, to spend 2 decades researching, codifying, and then revealing his magic formula for stupendous fortune to the world. What makes this so intriguing for the reader, and for us today, is that the secret is intentionally mentioned no fewer than 100 times throughout the book, yet it's never explicitly named.
100 times, but never spelled out.
Never spelled out. Hill's genius, perhaps, lies in that deliberate omission. The intent, as the book explains, is for it to be uncovered by those who are truly ready. Those who are actively searching for it, who are prepared to see the connections. It's an intellectual exercise for the reader, not just passive reading. And the real-world applications Hill cites are truly compelling. They demonstrate the power of this unnamed principle across all sorts of fields. Charles M. Schwab, for instance, a protege of Carnegie, he leveraged this very principle in organizing U.S. Steel, an application reportedly worth $600 million back then, an astronomical sum.
$600 million?
Yeah.
Just from applying this secret principle.
That's the claim. Think about that. Not just applying a principle, but using it to shape an entire industrial empire. Hill also tells of a clergyman who, through its use, saw his income jump to upwards of $75,000 a year, which was huge in that era. So it wasn't just for industry titans. And Arthur Nash, a Cincinnati tailor, famously revived his near-bankrupt business using this method. Led to a fortune, got lots of publicity for his golden rule approach. But this secret, importantly, it's not about getting something for nothing. Hill makes that very clear. He says it has a price, though far less than its value. And notably, it cannot be had at any price by those who are not intentionally searching for it.
So you have to be looking for it, actively.
Exactly. It implies a state of mind, a readiness, a deliberate pursuit. He even hints that it comes in 2 parts, and one of those parts the ready person already possesses, which suggests a crucial component is already within you, just waiting to be activated.
Right. So it really emphasizes that preparation and readiness on the part of the individual. You have to be seeking it. And at the absolute heart of that readiness, for Hill, is something he calls burning desire. He presents this not as some vague wish or fleeting hope, but as an intense, singular focus, almost an obsession, maybe. The classic story, the one everyone remembers, is Edwin C. Barnes. Barnes had this almost fanatical, burning desire to become Thomas Edison's business associate, a partner. not just to work for him as a mere employee. That distinction, that definite purpose is absolutely key.
Absolutely key. He wasn't just looking for a job.
Exactly. And despite lacking money, connections, any obvious path, he traveled by blind baggage, essentially sneaking onto a freight train, right? To get from New Jersey to Edison's lab in Orange. Imagine the sheer audacity, the commitment of that journey. And when he finally arrived, Edison himself later recounted Barnes's appearance. He said, Barnes stood there before me looking like an ordinary tramp, but there was something in the expression of his face which conveyed the impression that he was determined to get what he had come after.
Edison saw it immediately.
He saw it. Barnes initially could only get menial work, cleaning floors or something, but he remained persistent, steadfastly refusing to be deterred, until eventually his definite desire manifested into reality. He became Edison's partner, selling the Ediphone. He quite literally burned all bridges behind him, which is a powerful warrior analogy Hill uses. Think of a general landing troops on hostile shores and then setting his own ships ablaze. There's no retreat, only victory or perishing.
That level of commitment is intense. It forces success by removing the option of failure.
It really does. Hill parallels this with Marshall Field after the Great Chicago Fire. While other businessmen decided to move elsewhere, Field, with that same burning desire, made the audacious decision to rebuild the world's greatest store right there, on the ashes. That, for Hill, embodies burning desire. It's an internal furnace that just will not be extinguished until its purpose is achieved.
And that level of persistence, born from definite desire, often emerges most powerfully not from easy wins, but actually from temporary defeat. Consider the compelling story of R.U. Darby. He lost a fortune in a mining venture because he stopped digging 3 feet from gold.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. 3 feet.
Isn't it? He sold his claim because he was convinced it was dry. The new owner brought in an engineer, dug just a bit deeper, and hit the mother lode. This wasn't just a financial loss for Darby, it was a profound lesson. This temporary defeat became, as Hill puts it, a blessing in disguise. It taught him to keep on keeping on. He carried that invaluable lesson into his life insurance career, became one of the nation's top sellers, his secret. He simply refused to stop at no. He learned persistence was the ultimate differentiator.
He learned it the hard way, but he learned it well.
Exactly. Now, the book then tells another, maybe slightly baffling story involving a young child who, through some seemingly inexplicable power or influence, completely mastered Darby's fierce and unyielding uncle. Now, it's important we acknowledge this text was written in 1937. Some of the language used, like the original phrasing for the child, definitely reflects the conventions of that time period.
Yeah, we have to view it in its historical context.
Absolutely. But the core principle Hill is trying to illustrate remains relevant. It's about the presence of an unseen, subtle power that can influence outcomes, often stemming from an emotional or psychological state. The seemingly unrelated incident serves as a profound early illustration of that strange power Hill talks about. A power that can be stumbled upon, which he later reveals is directly connected to the principles in the book. It hints at the deeper psychology at play, even when we're not consciously aware of it.
Okay, so that strange power. That leads us directly to one of the most foundational and maybe often misunderstood concepts in Hill's work, faith. For Hill, faith isn't just religious belief or vague hope. He defines it as a profound state of mind. And remarkably, he says it may be induced by autosuggestion. That challenges conventional thinking, doesn't it? It suggests faith isn't something you passively wait for, but something you can actively cultivate, even engineer within yourself.
Precisely. And its role, he argues, is absolutely crucial.
Right. He says faith gives life, power, and action to the impulse of thought. It's the starting point of all accumulation of riches. It provides the vital energy that transforms desires into reality. And maybe most profoundly, Hill declares it the only known antidote for failure.
Yes, faith in this context becomes an intensely practical tool, and its primary mechanism, as you said, is autosuggestion. This is where Hill really gets into the mechanics of the mind. The principle basically states that one comes finally to believe whatever one repeats to oneself. Whether the statement be true or false, think about the implications of that.
Wow. So your subconscious just accepts it, no filter.
Essentially, yes. It doesn't filter truth from falsehood. It simply processes what it's consistently fed, especially when that information is infused with emotion. He explains that thoughts, when mixed with any of the feelings of emotions, constitute a magnetic force which attracts other similar or related thoughts. Imagine a thought is like a seed. You plant it in the fertile ground of your subconscious, then you water it repeatedly with emotion, passion, conviction, that burning desire. It won't just germinate. It'll grow and multiply, attracting more of its kind.
Like attracts like in the mental realm.
Exactly. But what's critical to understand, and this is a sobering warning from Hill, is that the subconscious makes absolutely no distinction between constructive and destructive thoughts. It acts on whatever impulses are fed to it with emotion. So, just as positive thoughts can manifest riches, fear-driven thoughts can manifest illness, poverty, or other negative outcomes. It's impartial. Hill provides stark examples, like the case of Joseph Grant, the bank official who apparently died from the sheer disgrace and mental anguish of his actions, illustrating how deeply negative emotions can literally lead to what he calls mental suicide. It highlights the double-edged sword of this principle.
That's quite intense. So you have to be incredibly mindful of your dominant thoughts and feelings.
You absolutely do. The self-confidence formula, which Hill provides as a direct, practical application of autosuggestion, requires persistent, continuous action. It's not a one-time thing. And the emphasis, again, is heavily on mixing emotion or feeling with your words when you apply the book's 6 steps to achieving your desires.
Why is the emotion so critical?
Because, as Hill emphatically states, plain, unemotional words do not influence the subconscious mind. The feeling, the conviction, the belief, that's the fuel. That's what ignites the mental engine.
That's a huge distinction. The vital role of emotion. That unemotional words just don't cut it for the subconscious. It really underscores the depth of the mind's power beyond just logic. And speaking of power, Hill then challenges a very common belief, one we often take for granted, the idea that knowledge is power. Instead, he argues, knowledge is only potential power. It only becomes actual power when it's organized into definite plans of action and directed to a definite end. So it's not just what you know, but what you do with what you know and how purposefully you apply it.
This point is wonderfully illustrated by that famous Henry Ford libel suit story. It's a real moment in history. Ford was being sued, and the opposing attorneys tried to prove he was ignorant on the witness stand. They grilled him with all sorts of obscure general knowledge questions, trying to trip him up.
Right, trying to make him look foolish.
Exactly. But Ford's brilliant, legendary response was essentially, look, I have a row of electric push buttons on my desk, and by pushing the right button, I can summon to my aid the man who can answer any question I desire to ask concerning the business to which I am devoting most of my efforts.
Ah, brilliant. Basically saying, I don't need to know everything. I just need to know who knows.
Precisely. The book concludes from this that any man is educated who knows where to get knowledge when he needs it and how to organize that knowledge into definite plans of action. Ford didn't need to be a walking encyclopedia. He understood collective intelligence. He surrounded himself with what Hill terms a mastermind group, brilliant people like Edison, Firestone, Burroughs, Burbank. Through this alliance, Hill argues, Ford effectively ripped poverty, illiteracy, and ignorance. It clearly shows that true power isn't in individual omniscience, but in the organization and direction of knowledge, often through strategic collaboration, knowing who to ask and how to integrate their expertise.
So it's less about hoarding knowledge and more about accessing and applying it through a network. And when it comes to getting that specialized knowledge, the kind that actually produces results, Hill states that it's among the most plentiful and the cheapest forms of service. He talks about sources like practical experience, yours and others, schools, libraries, special training courses, night schools, home study. He suggests the sheer volume of accessible information means lack of knowledge is rarely the real barrier.
Right. And what's quite a standout, maybe even provocative observation in the book is Hill's critique of America's public school system at the time. He noted what he called an astounding weakness, the fact that it is free.
Free is a weakness. How so?
His argument, rooted in psychology, is that anything acquired without effort or cost is often undervalued, underappreciated, even discredited. We don't value what we don't invest in. This is why he praised correspondence schools. By insisting on payment and requiring effort, they cultivated essential qualities, things like decision, promptness, action, and the habit of finishing that which one begins.
Ah, so the effort and cost build discipline.
Exactly. Hill recounts his own experience with an advertising course he took. He only finished it because he was legally obligated to pay, fully expecting to drop out. Yet, he found later that the school's collections system, its insistence on payment and follow-through, was actually a valuable, uncharged part of his training. It instilled persistence. This highlights how the process of acquiring knowledge can be as valuable as the knowledge itself. Plus, he points out that employers often give greater consideration to employees who take home study courses.
Why is that?
because it inherently demonstrates ambition, discipline, and a proactive attitude towards self-improvement. Highly prized qualities. A powerful example is Stuart Austin Ware. He was over 40, made a radical career change from construction engineer to corporation lawyer. He completed a 4-year law degree in just 2 years. How? By carefully selecting only the specialized courses he needed. No wasted time on general requirements.
Laser focus.
Total focus. The lesson is crystal clear. It pays to know how to purchase knowledge. Not just financially, but strategically with your time and effort. He also shares a great anecdote about an unemployed man who started a portable office bookkeeping service for small businesses using specialized knowledge, literally carried his office to his clients. It just perfectly illustrates how targeted knowledge plus an entrepreneurial plan can create opportunities out of thin air.
That's brilliant. Turning a skill and a challenge into a business. It really highlights the value of applied, creative knowledge. And once you have that knowledge and the burning desire, you need a workshop of the mind. That's where imagination comes in. Hill presents imagination as nothing less than the workshop wherein are fashioned all plans created by man. That's huge. He makes the bold claim, almost a declaration, man can create anything which he can imagine, foundational stuff.
Absolutely. And he distinguishes between two forms: synthetic imagination and creative imagination. Synthetic imagination is what most of us use daily. It's arranging old concepts, ideas, facts into new combinations, like assembling existing parts in a novel way.
The mental assembly line.
Pretty much. Creative imagination, though, is different. It's more about receiving hunches, intuitions, direct inspirations, ideas that seem to come from nowhere, from what Hill calls infinite intelligence, or maybe even from other subconscious minds. It's the spontaneous spark, the flash of genius.
Okay, so one is rearranging existing stuff, the other is tapping into something new, something bigger.
That's a good way to put it. And the book notes that both faculties, synthetic and creative, become more alert with use, like a muscle. The more you consciously engage them, the stronger they get. To illustrate the power of cultivating the creative faculty, Hill tells the fascinating story of Dr. Elmer R. Gates. Gates consciously practiced this ritual where he would sit for ideas. He'd seclude himself, tune out distractions, and just open his mind to receive inspiration.
He just sat there, waiting for ideas.
Essentially, yes, but with intense focus and receptivity. And through this method, he developed over 200 patents, many incredibly valuable. Corporations would even pay him substantial fees just for sitting for ideas on their behalf.
Wow. Paid to imagine.
Exactly. Demonstrates the practical, paid application of cultivated creative imagination. The text emphasizes that ideas received through the creative faculty are much more reliable than reasoning based solely on potentially inaccurate or limited past experience.
So intuition can sometimes trump logic.
That's the suggestion. That intuitive flash can bypass logical pitfalls. This all circles back to the 6 steps from earlier for achieving your purpose. Your plans must be formed with imagination, mostly synthetic at first, maybe, but crucially they need to be written down, given concrete form. An idea, however brilliant, stays ethereal until it's detailed in a plan.
Right, got to make it real. So, imagination gives form to desire and knowledge. And that brings us to the critical step of organized planning, translating desire and imagination into concrete, actionable steps. The book stresses the absolute necessity of definite, meticulously organized plans to convert any desire, especially a big one like wealth, into its monetary equivalent. And a crucial concept here, which we touched on with Ford, is the mastermind group.
Yes, the mastermind. It's not just teamwork. It's presented as essential for organized effort and accumulating real power. Hill asserts flatly, no individual has sufficient experience, education, native ability, and knowledge to ensure the accumulation of a great fortune without the cooperation of other people.
So a big success is basically never a solo act.
According to Hill, rarely, if ever. To build effective plans and leverage this, the book gives clear instructions for forming a powerful mastermind alliance. First, ally with the necessary people, those whose specialized knowledge, experience, imagination complement yours. Second, and this is crucial for reciprocity, decide what benefits you can offer them in return for their cooperation. It's a two-way street, mutual value exchange.
Makes sense. Give and take.
Absolutely. Third, meet regularly. Hill suggests at least twice a week, maybe more, until your plans are perfected and everyone's aligned. And the book underscores the vital need for flexibility. If the first plan which you adopt does not work successfully, replace it with a new plan until you find a plan which does work. It's not blind adherence, it's intelligent persistence.
Don't just bang your head against a wall if the plan isn't working. Adapt.
Precisely. It reinforces that temporary defeat is not permanent failure. Think of Edison again, failing 10,000 times with the light bulb. For Hill, each failure was just a step closer, identifying what didn't work, guiding him toward what would. The underlying philosophy here is that once the mindset is right, the purpose clear, and these principles applied consistently. Then, money flows to the one who accumulates it as easily as water flows downhill. It becomes a natural consequence of correctly aligned thought and effort.
That image of money flowing downhill. It's powerful. It suggests success isn't a fight, but a natural outcome if you align with these principles. Okay, let's talk about overcoming obstacles, because even with great plans, life happens, right? Curveballs get thrown. The book introduces definiteness of decision as the ultimate antidote for indecision, doubt, and fear. It's about moving forward swiftly, decisively, not getting paralyzed or stuck deliberating forever.
Yes, and the historical impact of definite decision is vividly illustrated by the story of the Declaration of Independence. Think about the sheer courage. John Hancock, Samuel Adams, making the dangerous decision to eject British soldiers from Boston. That led directly to the First Continental Congress. And on July 4, 1776, Jefferson fearlessly reading the Declaration Rebellion against the world's most powerful empire.
High stakes doesn't even begin to cover it.
Not at all. Then 56 men signed it, staking their lives, fortunes, everything on that collective decision. This decision created by a mastermind, a group united by a common, definite purpose, Hill argues, provided the unwavering spiritual power which recognizes no such thing as failure. He asserts the spirit of definite decision ensured Washington's armies eventually succeeded against overwhelming odds.
Wow. So decision itself has a kind of power.
That's the idea. And the book makes a direct, powerful parallel to our personal lives. It says, by decisions made in a similar spirit of faith, can men solve their personal problems and win for themselves high estates of material and spiritual wealth? So it's not just grand history. It's about individual courage to make a firm choice and stand by it. Hesitation is the enemy.
Right. It applies to everyday life, too, the courage to decide. Hill points out that leaders in every walk of life decide quickly and firmly. That's a major reason they are leaders. They don't procrastinate, they commit. He also addresses the common habit of indecision. Suggests it often starts young, maybe worsened by education systems that don't teach or encourage decisiveness enough. We learn facts, maybe, but not how to act on them quickly.
That's a fair point. And Henry Ford, again, is held up as a prime example of this quality, renowned for reaching decisions quickly and definitely and changing them slowly, if ever.
Like with the Model T, right? He stuck with it for years.
Exactly. Sometimes seen as obstinate, but he knew his market and mission. That definiteness enabled his phenomenal success. The profound takeaway here is both a warning and empowerment. No man is ever whipped until he quits in his own mind.
Defeat isn't real until you accept it internally?
Precisely. And that leads directly to the essential, non-negotiable quality of persistence. The book describes persistence as being, to the character of man, what carbon is to steel. It gives strength, resilience, durability. It's absolutely necessary for accumulating money and, crucially, for overcoming the overwhelmingly large number who go down in defeat. Most people, Hill notes, quit when temporary defeat hits. They see a setback as a stop sign.
But the successful ones don't.
No, the successful few see temporary defeat as merely a signal to adjust plans and push forward with renewed resolve. It's the difference between being knocked down and staying down versus getting knocked down, recalibrating, and rising again.
Exactly. And we see this in so many real-world examples. Hill details. Fannie Hurst, the writer, 4 grueling years in New York, rejection after rejection. But her persistence was unwavering. Eventually, publishers sought her out. She sold novel rights for $100,000. Incredible backing.
Incredible. Persistence paid off literally.
Then there's W.C. Fields, the comedian. Over 60, lost everything in the crash, injured, but not defeated. He offered to work for free in the new field of movies just to get a foot in the door. He got the breaks, Hill says, not by chance, but because he kept on keeping on, showing up, delivering.
Just refused to quit.
Refused. Eddie Cantor, another entertainer, lost his fortune in 29. Yet, through sheer persistence and courage, he exploited himself back into an income of $10,000 a week. Unbreakable spirit. Kate Smith, the singer. Maybe thousands had better voices technically, but she made the grade because they lacked the courage to keep on keeping on. Success through endurance. Even Muhammad, the historical figure, faced ridicule, banishment, poverty for 10 years, but due to unyielding persistence, became dictator of Arabia within another 10. These stories just hammer home that skill and opportunity matter, but persistence is the ultimate decider.
Absolutely. And thankfully, cultivating persistence isn't left to chance. The book outlines 4 simple yet profound steps. 1. Definite purpose backed by burning desire. Need a clear target and the fire to pursue it. 2. Definite plan, expressed in continuous action. Need a map and the willingness to keep walking. 3. A mind closed tightly against all negative and discouraging influences. Guard your thoughts fiercely. And 4. A harmonious alliance with others, your mastermind. Leverage collective support.
Seems straightforward, but probably hard to consistently apply.
Very true. And Hill highlights a critical distinction here. Poverty consciousness versus money consciousness. He notes poverty consciousness develops easily, almost automatically, just by absorbing negativity and limitations from the world. It's the default for many. Money consciousness, however, must be deliberately created and then meticulously maintained through persistence. It's an active, ongoing effort.
Have to build it and protect it.
Exactly. The book uses a vivid analogy of a nightmare. When you're half awake, feel like you're smothering. It's through persistent effort of willpower that you gradually regain control, snap out of it step by step. That illustrates how persistent will can regain control from overwhelming negative states. And this section leaves us with a truly profound, empowering truth. Every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent advantage.
Wow, that reframes setbacks completely. Not dead ends, but hidden opportunities. That is a powerful concept. Within every failure lies a seed of advantage. Incredible perspective shift. Now, moving to the deeper psychology of success, we have to confront what the book calls the 6 basic fears. These are like insidious hidden enemies. They often sabotage effort, prevent people from reaching their potential. They are poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and death. And what's particularly insidious is how they combine and reinforce each other. Hill says, indecision is the seedling of fear, which then crystallizes into doubt. The two blend and become fear. So hesitation literally starts the downward spiral.
It does, and these fears have very specific symptoms and profound impacts. The fear of poverty is deemed the most destructive, stemming, Hill suggests, from man's inherited tendency to prey upon his fellow man economically. A rather bleak view, maybe.
A product of its time, perhaps.
Perhaps. But he says it brings suffering and humility, makes people feel inferior, leads to constantly worrying about bills, even when okay, or a general scarcity mindset limiting ambition. The fear of criticism is almost as universal as the fear of poverty. Hill argues it robs man of his initiative, destroys his power of imagination, limits his individuality. He uses interesting examples. Social conformity leading men to wear tight hats, maybe causing baldness, or manufacturers manipulating fashion just to sell more by making people fear being out of style.
That still happens today, for sure.
Absolutely. He even highlights how parental criticism, meant well, can inadvertently harm a child's confidence and initiative. Then, the fear of ill health. Traced to heredity, but often worsened by industries that, as Hill puts it, sell health, implicitly cultivating fear of illness. Hypochondria, imaginary illness, he says, is widespread, and negative suggestion from others or yourself can literally make you ill. Disappointments in business or love are major emotional triggers, too.
The mind-body connection is strong there.
Very strong. Then the fear of loss of love. Hill suggests this is more common in women due to what he perceived as the polygamous nature of men historically. Dating back to the Stone Age, he says, when men often stole women by brute force, though techniques evolved to persuasion and material bait, it's about fear of emotional isolation, betrayal.
Again, reflecting views from the 1930s, but the core fear is relatable.
Indeed. The fear of old age grows from fear of poverty, inability to provide for oneself, and terrible pictures of the world beyond, worries about afterlife. Also linked to diminishing perceived sex attraction. This fear often leads to inferiority complexes around age 40, feeling your prime is over. Finally, the fear of death. Often linked, he says, to past fire and brimstone teachings painting terrifying afterlife pictures. He deems it useless, as death is inevitable. He argues it can destroy interest in life and makes happiness impossible, distracting from living fully now.
It's clear these fears are deeply ingrained, often subconscious saboteurs, invisible enemies. But the book offers a powerful antidote to outwit these ghosts, the habit of prompt and firm decision.
Decision, again, it's central.
It is. He explains that consciously deciding to accept realities like death, old age, potential criticism, or deciding to actively work around issues like poverty and ill health. This frees the mind from the corrosive grip of worry and fear. This deliberate decision-making leads to poise, peace of mind, and calmness of thought, genuine happiness, clarity. Conversely, Hill issues a stark warning. A mind filled with fear not only destroys his own chances, but transmits these destructive vibrations to the minds of all who come into contact with him.
Wow. So your fear isn't just your problem, it affects others energetically.
That's the claim, a powerful statement about the impact of our mental state on our environment.
Okay, building on that understanding of emotional energy, the book introduces a truly revolutionary concept for its time, sex transmutation. Hill presents sex energy as the most powerful of all the major positive emotions, and remarkably, the secret of creative ability.
The secret of creativity.
Sex energy.
Yes. He describes it as the creative energy of all gene, the raw, primal force behind extraordinary accomplishment. However, for it to elevate one to genius, it requires transmutation, transforming that intense desire for physical contact into some other form of desire and action. It's about channeling that potent energy, that fundamental drive, away from a purely physical outlet into highly focused, creative, productive work, especially towards your definite purpose.
So redirecting that powerful drive.
Exactly. Hill notes a fascinating observation. Men who succeed in an outstanding way seldom do so before the age of 40. He attributes this partly to their dissipating their energies through overindulgence and physical expression of the emotion of sex before learning to transmute it.
Interesting theory. Controversial, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely. And he highlights the profound, often overlooked influence of women, stating, "The men who have accumulated great fortunes and achieved outstanding recognition were motivated by the influence of a woman." He even boldly claims man's greatest motivating force is his desire to please woman, which, he argues, gives women the power to make or break a man by inspiring or undermining ambition.
That's quite a statement about gender dynamics, again, from a 1930s perspective.
Absolutely. It's crucial to frame it historically. While other mind stimuli, like drugs or alcohol, are mentioned as less effective ways to boost brain activity, sex energy is emphasized as the most powerful natural one for constructive achievement when it's consciously transmuted.
Okay, a revolutionary perspective on a fundamental drive, reframing it as creative power. And this leads to another groundbreaking idea. The brain itself functions as a broadcasting and receiving station.
Yeah, this is pretty out there for the time.
He suggests every human brain is both a broadcasting and receiving station for the vibration of thought, meaning highly emotionalized thoughts, especially from transmuted sex energy, which he says vibrate faster, become incredibly potent. They can be picked up by other brains, influencing them, and powerfully influence your own subconscious. A feedback loop.
And this concept extends further to what the book calls the sixth sense, or creative imagination, beyond the 5 physical senses. This is a higher level of receptivity. A faculty, he says, most people never use their whole lives, or only accidentally, without conscious control.
But it can be developed.
Critically, yes. Hill argues it can be cultivated. It becomes receptive to ideas not available through the ordinary rate of vibration of thought, suggesting access to a deeper intelligence, intuition. The author himself conducted this remarkable invisible counselor's experiment. For years, nightly imaginary council meetings with great historical figures, Emerson, Edison, Lincoln.
Imaginary meetings.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Seriously. It was a form of autosuggestion, a deliberate practice to rebuild his character, cultivate these higher faculties. He recounts how these imagined figures surprisingly took on distinct personalities, offered profound insights. Lincoln offering wisdom on common sense, Edison providing revelations about life as great swarms of energy. He eventually starked when the figures became too real, almost unsettlingly so.
That's wild. Almost sounds like channeling in a way.
It borders on that. Hill also points to Dr. J.B. Ryan's pioneering experiments on telepathy and clairvoyance at Duke University back then. Ryan's work showed these extrasensory abilities didn't diminish with distance and were heightened when subjects were alert, not asleep. Hill uses these scientific observations to support his theory. The ultimate conclusion: the sixth sense is probably the medium of contact between the finite mind of man and infinite intelligence.
A direct link to universal wisdom. Mind-blowing stuff. So it's about tapping into a deeper, maybe universal source of knowledge and intuition, beyond our physical senses. Okay, bringing these timeless principles into modern relevance. The book shifts focus to a very practical application, effectively marketing personal services. Hill insists that in the new economy, even back then, and maybe more so now, you must see yourself as a merchant of your skills, not just an employee waiting for a paycheck.
Right, taking ownership of your value proposition.
Exactly. He introduces the indispensable QQS formula for this: quality, performing every detail efficiently to the highest standard; quantity, rendering all the service you're capable of and always looking to increase that output. and spirit, demonstrating agreeable, harmonious conduct that naturally encourages cooperation. Basically, be excellent, productive, and pleasant to work with.
That QQS formula is particularly relevant because the book highlights what Hill saw as a stupendous change in employer-employee relations even in the 1930s. A shift from the old public be damned policy businesses acting indifferent or superior towards a new, we are obligingly at your service, sir, approach.
Customer service becoming key.
Exactly. Moving towards a more collaborative partnership model, one that explicitly includes not just employees, but also the public they serve. He cites tangible examples. Railway ticket agents, streetcar conductors, once they held monopolies, could be rude, but competition forced them to become more courteous. Polite chain stores, obliging oil burner salesmen. Market dynamics forced a shift towards better service, a go-giver mentality.
Interesting. Competition improved behavior.
It did. And the Great Depression itself, Hill argues, was partly a protest from an injured public against those who had tried to get without giving, reinforcing a fundamental law of economics. Sustained success comes from providing value. The message is crystal clear and profoundly relevant today. The day of the go-getter has passed. He has been supplanted by the go-giver. It's about contributing value first, not just chasing what you can take.
That's a huge mindset shift. From extraction to contribution. So it's not just finding a job, but strategically providing value, serving in a way that makes you indispensable. The book advocates a highly strategic approach to finding work, or any opportunity really. First, decide exactly what job you want meticulously. Second, choose the specific company or organization. Third, thoroughly study that employer, their needs, challenges, vision. Fourth, and most critically, determine what you can offer. Unique advantages, specialized services, creative ideas that directly benefit them.
So you're positioning yourself as a solution provider.
Exactly. Hill says forget looking for a job opening. Focus entirely on your potential contribution. Make a case for why they need you, even if they don't realize it yet. There's a fantastic anecdote about a woman who developed a personal service sales plan for her son. Not just a resume. It was a comprehensive plan book. Abilities, education, experience, and a specific, detailed plan for the exact junior executive position he wanted at a specific company.
Tailored, targeted, strategic.
Completely. And it secured him the role at his self-fixed salary without starting at the bottom. And the book really drives home that the bottom is a monotonous, dreary, unprofitable place for any person. Proper, intelligent planning can entirely circumvent it, let you enter higher up.
Indeed. Elevating your approach and your perception of your own value. And the book then broadens its view to the context of opportunity in America and the role of capital. Hill celebrates America's unique freedoms, choosing residence, marriage, travel, and crucially, to aim for any station in life for which we have prepared ourselves. Individual agency, potential.
The American dream ideal,
Yeah.
essentially.
Very much so. To illustrate the unseen miracle of organized capital, he uses the simple example of a New York City family's breakfast. Imagine. Grapefruit from Florida, tea from China, bananas from South America, eggs from Utah, all delivered cheaply, efficiently to their table. This mundane event, the book explains, is only possible due to the incredibly complex, coordinated network of organized capital. Railroads, ships, financial systems, trained labor, specialized services, connecting producers globally to consumers locally. A silent, massive ballet of commerce we often take for granted.
It's a good point. We rarely think about the infrastructure behind a simple meal, and it does a fascinating job of Crocus. Countering criticisms often leveled against entities like Wall Street, the money changers, and big business. Hill acknowledges these are often targets of critique, but he argues these capitalists are, in fact, the brains of civilization.
That's a strong claim.
It is. He asserts they supply the entire fabric of which all education, enlightenment, and human progress consists. Basically, providing the organizational and financial scaffolding for society's advancement. He then presents the book's perspective again. Remember the 1930s context that attempts to take riches away from industry by organized force of numbers, instead of the better method of giving a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. Things like demands for more pay for less service, or government relief without corresponding effort. He argues these actually prolong depressions and violate the law of economics.
So a strong emphasis on individual contribution and earned reward within that framework.
Exactly. His core message there is that America, and free markets generally, provide ample opportunity for any honest person willing to work, contribute value, and apply these principles. It's a call for individual responsibility and enterprise. #outro. So as we bring this deep dive into Think and Grow Rich to a close, Wow, we've covered a lot of ground. We've journeyed through Hill's profound and interconnected principles, how definite burning desire infused with unwavering faith, cultivated through autosuggestion, forms bedrock.
Right, and how that then blossoms through specialized knowledge, sparked by imagination, and structured with organized planning.
All propelled forward by decisive action and that unwavering persistence, allowing you to overcome obstacles and manifest your goals. These aren't just abstract concepts, are they? They're vital, interconnected principles, each essential for achieving any definite purpose, especially wealth or however you define success.
Absolutely. And remember, the book's true genius, maybe, lies in its suggestion that the secret, that unnamed formula, is meant to be uncovered personally through your own active engagement. It's not a single phrase, but the synergistic application of all these principles together. As Hill states, riches begin in the form of thought.
It all starts in the mind.
It does. To continue your own journey, the book actually provides 28 self-analysis questions. It encourages you to use them regularly, like a mental mirror, to honestly assess your progress, identify fears, pinpoint areas for growth. The world, Hill reminds us, is filled with an abundance of opportunity, especially for practical dreamers, those who blend vision with action, who cultivate humility, tolerance, open-mindedness. It's really a call to embrace an abundance mindset.
Absolutely. And if it is riches you are seeking, consider this final provocative thought from Hill. He says, basically, don't overlook the possibilities in a country whose citizens are so rich that women alone spend over $200 million annually just on lipsticks, rouge, and cosmetics.
That was in the 1930s. Imagine the numbers today.
Exactly. And he adds they toss in millions more for liquor, narcotics, and other less potent soft drinks, and what he colorfully called giggle waters, basically. Any light beverages enjoyed for pleasure. His point isn't about the products themselves, but the sheer immense scale of consumer desire in existing markets.
The demand is already there. People want things.
The demands are there, the desires are there, the opportunities are all around you, waiting to be served. So the final question for you, listening, is, what specific desire will you now cultivate with that burning persistence and definite plans? How will you leverage these insights to unlock your own stupendous fortune, whether that fortune is measured in money, influence, or other deeply valuable aspects of your life?